Since the Aviation Week article received tremendous traction amongst the press and public, the Pentagon rushed to allay growing fears about the unusual outer space objects. The scare over the observance of two previously unobserved satellites orbiting the Earth has dissipated with the identification of the objects as natural, not artificial satellites. Ufologists, though, assert this was the convenient, conventional explanation, one meant to distract and steer the public away from the truth. They point to the fact that the Soviet Union launched the beach ball-sized Sputnik 1, humankind's first-ever artificial satellite, into space from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan only in October 1957, a full 3 years after the detection of the so-called Black Knight satellite. But ufologists could hardly have imagined that there was much more to come in this extraordinary saga. On February 11, 1960, a New York Times article reported that U.S. tracking stations had detected a mysterious, dark, and silent satellite wheeling overhead on a regular and roughly pole-to-pole or polar orbit. Such an orbit would endow the object with the exceptional capability to observe every part of the Earth's surface. The Navy had employed the latest component of the Space Watch program called Dark Fence, designed by the Naval Research Laboratory to find and track this satellite. It was a kind of radar tripwire that stretched across the width of the United States to help keep track of satellites whose radios had gone silent. When the object showed up during 2 passes of the Dark Fence, the news was communicated to President Eisenhower and marked top secret. However, though initially classified as a Soviet spy satellite, it was later revealed that the object constituted the remains of an Air Force Discoverer 5 satellite, one of the first photographic reconnaissance satellites built by the United States. You would be mistaken if you thought only UFO hunters believed that the strange objects detected in outer space were otherworldly. In 1960, Ronald Bracewell, professor of electrical engineering of the Space, Telecommunications, and Radio Science Laboratory at Stanford University, published an article in the authoritative scientific journal, Nature, in which he advanced the possibility of the presence of an alien probe that was trying to establish contact with Earth. As proof of his theory, the scientist cited the phenomenon of delays in radio signals observed since the beginning of the 20th century. In 1961, French author, ufologist, and astronomer Jacques Vallée divulged that while working on the staff of the French Space Committee, he had taken photos and filmed a bright oil tanker-sized satellite. While tracking its trajectory, Vallée realized it was in a retrograde orbit, meaning in an east-to-west orbit, opposite to Earth's rotation. However, when he showed the astounding scientific material he had gathered to his superiors, he claims it was not just confiscated, but destroyed. Certain UFO researchers opine that amateur American astronomer Stephen Slayton was the first to observe the mysterious object way back in 1958. While observing the moon with a 20-inch telescope, Slayton is said to have witnessed a dark spherical object moving at high speed on an unusual elliptical trajectory before disappearing when it reached the edge of the lunar disk. Based on these characteristics, he concluded it was artificial. But the U.S. military dismissed Slayton's sighting as a meteorite flying near the moon, as the object had not been recorded by any radar station. According to researchers, there are 2 possible origins of the name Black Knight. The first one maintains that it was derived from a 1972 science fiction novel, The Destruction of Fianna, by Soviet author Alexander Kazantsev. In the story, a civilization from the planet Phaeton that was destroyed in a nuclear disaster had launched the Black Prince satellite into Earth's orbit to communicate with Earthlings. When Kazantsev's novel was translated into English, the phrase Black Prince was changed to Black Knight. It is believed that this fictitious satellite lent its name to the space object discovered by Slayton. The second option is connected to United Kingdom's research ballistic missile called the Black Knight that was launched at Woomera, Australia on September 7, 1958. Whatever the origin of the mysterious satellite's moniker, it has stuck like glue.